Miss Ford, I have a question. You hear from Tupac lately?
My addiction is not one of the cool addictions like sex addiction.
You are nothing but an illegitimate bastard.
Mishaps and blunders. Golly, there's a lot to choose from. It's hard to pick just one, but let's try this. Let's say you're an assistant professor at one of the universities down the road from here. One night, you get real drunk. You fall out of the third floor window of your faculty office. You break your back. You cost your university almost $500,000 in medical bills and lost wages, and all you have to show for it is this lousy cane. I'd say that was a pretty good blunder. Why don't I tell you that story? Okay, it's 20 years ago, it's 3 a.m. on the first day of fall semester classes. Now, what am I doing at that hour of morning? Well, I'm up in my office frantically trying to type a syllabus for the class I'm going to teach in 7 hours. I finish a pretty good rough draft. I send it to the printer out in the hallway just outside the door to my office. I dash out there to get a copy. Almost immediately, I recognize my blunder because behind me, I can hear the door to my office slam shut and lock. Now, this is a real problem, not just because behind that locked door is my unfinished syllabus and the key to my office. Nope, there's something else in there. There's no less than 10 empty 12-ounce cans of Budweiser. Since 10 p.m. the previous night, I've been throwing back beers. Why? Because as everybody knows, the only way to write a bitchin' syllabus is to have a really good buzz going. Now, it's not as though this was a first-time experience for me. Over the years, I'd picked up a few bad habits, this among them, and in that time, I had come to associate late nights, hard work, and the casual consumption of alcohol as being a perfectly normal, perfectly natural behavior. Now, did I think maybe this was a problem? Well, I guess I must have, because for all the years leading up to that particular morning, I'd done my best to never let anyone know what I was doing late at night up in that office. So now, I've got a real problem, because anyone with a key, housekeeping staff, my teaching assistant, my asshole office mate, they could walk in there later in the morning, they'd discover everything that I had been trying so hard to keep hidden. I had to do something about that. So I weighed my options. Now, I could have called campus security. I could have got them to let me back in, but first I'd have to convince them that I actually was a faculty member, and I actually needed to get into my office at 3 a.m., and that no, I was not shit-faced drunk. That just did not seem likely at all. I could have walked home, I could have come back later in the morning, had my department head let me back in, at which point he almost certainly would have discovered my secret, and that would have done some real damage to my prospects for tenure. I didn't like that plan at all. But gradually, a third idea came to me. You see, I knew that in my office there was an open awning window. The sill was about 5.5 feet off the floor, just as there was an open awning window directly in front of me out in the hallway, and suddenly it seemed real simple. I can just slip out the hallway window. Did I mention third floor? Slip out the hallway window, shimmy my way across the face of the wall, pull myself in through the office window, get back to my desk, finish that syllabus, clean up the mess, and no one would be the wiser. It seemed like a great plan at the time. There was a couple of obvious flaws here that I failed to take into consideration. For one thing, I'd be doing this 40 feet off the ground. For another thing, well, I was shit-faced drunk. And one other thing that I should have thought of, but it didn't occur to me at the time, in order to be able to pull yourself up through an awning window that's above your shoulders, you've got to be capable of bench pressing your body weight, about 150 pounds. Now, okay, that was never gonna happen. But I didn't think about it, so out I went. Now, for the first couple of minutes, it's going pretty good, really. I'm hanging from the windowsill by my fingertips, and I work my way hand over hand from one window to the other. I get myself centered. I try to pull myself up. I don't quite make it. Take a deep breath. I try it again. Nope. I try a third time. Not even close. It's only then that I remember that fact about bench pressing your body weight, and I think, oh, shit. And so I hang there for a few minutes longer. I try to come up with plan B. But you know what? There is no plan B. And so I hang there for a few more minutes. I think about my life. I think about the terrible mistake I've just made. I think about my family and what this is going to do to them. And then I do the only thing I can possibly do in that situation. I let go. Mercifully, I don't remember the fall, nor do I remember the impact. The first thing I remember, I'm lying on my back looking up at the stars, and I say to myself, Jesus, that was stupid. I got to get back upstairs and finish that syllabus. So I try to get up, but I can't. I've crushed my spine. I'm paralyzed from the waist down. So I lie there for 4 hours till somebody finds me. I'm rushed to the hospital. They're getting ready to wheel me in for emergency spinal surgery. But first, I ask to be given a phone. I call my wife, and I utter words that she is unlikely to ever let me forget for the rest of my life. I say, "Hey, honey, you're not going to guess what happened. I had a little accident. Now, everything's fine. Don't worry. Why don't you drop the kids off at school, and when you get a chance, swing by the hospital, come see me. We'll talk." So I spent the next 2 weeks in intensive care in a wonderful morphine stupor. I don't remember it, but people who came to visit me say that I was unnaturally giddy. And then I spent the next 6 months in physical rehabilitation. Now, when you spend that length of time immobilized in a hospital bed, it gives you a chance to think through the decisions you've made in your life. And early on, you develop a list of lessons learned. Well, here's my list. Lesson number 1 should come as no great news flash to you all. Alcohol impairs your judgment. Check! As my rehab psychologist suggested to me, I needed to make a serious lifestyle adjustment. And so I did. Lesson number 2, physical therapists are gods. My 2 therapists, Teresa and Donna, for 7 hours a day, every day of 6 months, they busted my nuts. And by their determination alone, they willed me to walk again. I love those women. There's some lessons about my colleagues, the one who cleaned up my office and never said a word to anyone, a story about that department head that I so feared would discover my secret, who went to the provost, went to the mat with him and saved my job. You just cannot repay debts of that magnitude when something like this happens. You really learn who your true friends are. The only thing you can possibly do is just do the best you can to express your gratitude for their love and for their kindness. The final lesson. As I say, I don't remember the fall, but I do remember with crystal clarity the exact moment I let go of that windowsill. Now, no, I did not hear the voice of God, nor did I witness the events of my life flash before my eyes, but something did happen. At that moment, I was overcome by this extraordinary sense of perfect calm, a sensation of absolute serenity, unlike anything I'd ever known before in my life. And there was a voice. Now, maybe it was my subconscious, maybe it was something else, but that voice said, "It's going to be all right. Don't worry. No matter what happens, everything's going to be just fine." And now, even though it's 20 years later, whenever I find myself frustrated or upset, I can remember that moment. I can recapture some small measure of that sense of calm. And I can say to myself, "It's going to be all right. Don't worry. No matter what happens, everything's going to be just fine." Thank you.
Roger Spears.